Hello again everyone, James here, and today I want to talk about something that I get asked a lot, which is whether or not artists should be trying to get record deals in 2021. Now right off the top, I want to say that there's a very obvious problem with this question, and that is that every career is different. What works for someone and what someone needs to get ahead or to have the best chance at lasting success is different than everybody else. For example, if you want to be a pop star, and I'm talking Lady Gaga, Britney Spears, Ariana Grande, someone at that level where the whole world knows your name, your videos cost $1 million, everyone wants to work with you, and you are busy 365, 24/7, well then yes, you absolutely need a record deal. I don't know a single independent artist that has even gotten close to that level without the help and financial backing of a big record label. But for everyone else, whether or not you're in a band or you're a solo artist, if you're in country, rap, rock, metal, EDM, whatever it happens to be, the answer is incredibly complicated. And it's based on a few factors, which I'm going to lay out here in the form of questions which you should ask yourself before determining what matches your career. Now, whenever this question comes up, the first thing I ask an artist is whether or not they know what their goals are. Do you want to become a full-time musician who travels a few times a year, puts out a record every 18 months or so, and makes enough money to raise a family and everyone involved in your music can pay all their bills and hopefully afford a house at some point? Or do you want to be a road warrior who's out there all the time performing 300 days out of the year? Or do you want to be somebody that's topping the charts on a regular basis? Do you want to be a viral celebrity? Do you want to become an influencer? Do you want to use your music career to transition into some other realm of entertainment? Or maybe you're just a hobbyist who's hoping to make music that people are aware exists and hopefully enjoy, but aren't necessarily counting on it to be the only thing that you do with the rest of your life. Knowing this can really help figure out whether or not a record label would be right for you if an offer were to come along, or if you should even try seeking one out. And what I always recommend is that you write these goals down and be big with it. Write down everything that you want to achieve, every single thing in detail as much as possible, just to give yourself the clarity of knowing what it is that you're trying to do. And once you get that far, move on to this next question. Who is on your team? And by that I mean, who are the people that you're working with to make your dreams come true? Now, if you're in a band, the answer is, at least in part, your bandmates. But you might have a manager, you might have a producer that you go to all the time, you may have a videographer or a photographer who is capturing every moment in your career. Who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with? And what are they doing for your career? Are you functioning together as a family, as one big unit, and everyone is coming up through the ranks together? Are these all hired guns who come and go as you please? Are they working with you to reach the same goals that you just laid out in response to my first question? And if the answer is yes, across the board, good news, you might not need a label. You still might, we'll get there in a second, but if you don't have a team right now, but you're starting to get a little bit of traction for yourself, you know, you had a song that went viral on TikTok, or when you play shows, people are really starting to pay attention, but you don't really have all the people that you need to take the next step or even know what the next step is, well, that's where a label can sometimes come in handy. So figure that out. Figure out who your team is, and if you're missing somebody, if there's an area where you feel like you're the weakest in your career and all the elements of it, write that down as well. Make a list of who you have and who you need. Now that we know where we want to go and who's along for the ride, it's time to ask ourselves what we can accomplish without anyone else helping us. And I mean anyone outside of your team. So if you want to become a full-time musician, somebody that is able to record when they want to, tour a few times, but not all the time, because some people need a break. You need to be able to take care of yourself. If that is your goal, do you have the components needed to get there right now on your own? Is it just a matter of working hard, building that community, and getting your name out there, and then engaging with your fans on a regular basis and hoping that that community supports you over 5, 10, 20 years, or however long it happens to be? Or is your goal to get to that chart-topping position? And if so, do you have a producer in your life who is helping you make music that is on par with what's currently topping the charts? Do you have a manager with connections at Spotify and all these other places that can help get your music out there to the masses? Do you have a publicist in your life, and can you afford one if you don't? Do you have those things that are necessary components of getting to that top level of success? And I know that you know somebody that got there without having all those pieces. Someone that went viral on social media for a song clip, and then all of a sudden the big label came calling and they were at the top of the charts without all those things. They skipped some of the steps on the ladder. But let's be honest, that is an outlier. That is not how things typically work. It's about building up that momentum and getting to where we want to be. So ask yourself right now and be as honest as possible. Do you have what it takes? And if so, is it just a matter of time and hard work? Or are there components missing in your career that are preventing you from reaching the place that you want to be, that you are unable to afford or are unable to create for yourself or through your team? And if the answer is the latter, then let's keep talking. And I say that because if you've watched this far and your goals are within your reach and you have a team around you that are all helping you work towards those goals, then a label is a bonus to what you're trying to achieve, but by no means is it an absolute necessity because you can handle distribution yourself. You would already have a pretty decent understanding of how marketing works. You have venue connections. You can afford a publicist if you need one. You have the ability to make things happen for yourself. But if you're in group B, then it's time to talk about a label because even if you think you need one, it might not be right for your career. Now, by and large, labels are amazing. They're made up of people who are fiercely devoted to music, but don't often perform music themselves. And in some cases they do, but most of them are just gigantic fans of music who understand elements of the business that you don't have a strong grasp on yourself, or maybe they just understand it in a way that you don't, and they've been able to help other artists before you get ahead. Also, and perhaps most notably for a lot of people, record labels are kind of like banks for musicians because they're able to supply you with some money that will help you pay for vinyl or pay for recording or pay for vinyl and recording and tour production and a whole bunch of people around you to make sure your career takes off. But that all comes at a price. There's a debt involved in that you have to be able to work off. And sometimes the idea of whether or not to accept a deal from a record label comes down to whether or not the money makes sense. There's this really crazy story about a rapper who was offered $900,000 in his first record deal when he was 18 years old. But they wanted to own everything. They wanted to own the masters to his music. They wanted a cut of tour. They wanted a cut of his merch. They wanted a piece of everything. And then he got another offer for $20,000. That would be enough to record a record, but he could keep the masters, keep his tour money, keep his merch money, and just work off the debt that he needed from that $20,000 advance. And you know which one he took? He took the $20,000 because he realized that it was better to own his stuff and continue building on his own with the help of somebody else rather than to be indebted to a giant corporation who ultimately didn't care about him as much as they did getting back their $900,000. And if he took off and became a giant success, of course they would love him and give him more money and so on and so forth. But the risk just wasn't worth the reward in his mind. And it ultimately paid off in his benefit because that rapper is T-Pain. And most of us know who that is. And if you don't, you're probably young and that's okay, just go Google it. It's not that important here. But what I'm getting at is that if you're one of those people who found yourself feeling like you have dreams that you cannot yourself work towards and achieve without some outside money, some outside guidance, some team around you that you cannot currently assemble yourself, but you are able to get on the radar of record labels and they come calling, or you just hit the ground running, calling people, making phone calls and making those connections yourself to the point where people feel like they have no choice but to offer you a deal just to get you to be quiet. If that's you and you're in that position and you look at the offers and they feel reasonable to you, and by that I mean they're not keeping your masters. They're giving you a reasonable amount of money to get a little bit further, but not so much that you'll be working it off for the rest of your career. And there's very clear guidelines on when that relationship will end or at least be up for renewal. Well then, yeah, maybe a record label is right for you. But you have to make sure that it's the right offer. And by all means, seek outside counsel. Don't just listen to this guy on YouTube. Don't just listen to your friends, and certainly don't listen to the people with the other end of the contract. Get somebody who has no stake in the game to look at the paperwork and make sure that it's right for you. And only then should you be chasing a record label. What I'm saying is there are so many opportunities to take control of your career today and to learn how to do the things that you don't know, that unless you absolutely need that external help, I advise against it. I think you should stay independent and keep driving it home. And eventually, these labels will come to you because they want a piece of what you're doing rather than you wanting a piece from them. Because the more you want or need from them, the more they're going to take from you in the long run. You want to be on the other side of the table and have the advantage. So stay independent as long as possible. Educate yourself. Build something yourself. Engage with your community. Grow that community and make sure everyone comes up together. And if you can do that, you can achieve that dream, whatever it happens to be. You can top the charts, you can have a full-time career that lasts your lifetime, you can become an icon with a one-hit single who then retired to the woods and was never heard from again. You can do whatever it is you want to do. And if you need even more help at any point in your journey, well, guess what? That's why this channel exists. Music Biz is here to help you navigate the music industry. I'm with you every step of the way. I'm here to answer questions, and I will point you to somebody that knows the answer if I do not. So if you haven't done so already, click the subscribe button down below. It costs you nothing, and you can gain access to this amazing community of people that are all trying to get ahead just like you. And if you've already done that, thank you for your constant support. I'll be here again very soon to talk to you, but until then, take care of yourself because you deserve it.